I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey and we'll be continuing the broadcasting of Day 7 of the Round 1 of the World Team Carcassonne Online Championship 2025. This time, it feels lonely without my special guest who needed to move on to other adventures. So for the next 2.5 hours, you're stuck with me, with my solo commentary on two matches. First of all, Netherlands against Japan, the reigning world champion. The Netherlands are going to have a tough time, but the way the lineups work for this match makes it just about doable for Team Netherlands to maybe try and come up with an upset. And after that, if we have time, we're going to catch a glimpse on the encounter between Guatemala and Colombia. So a little preview of the pairings to start things off. On table 1, we have the comeback of one of the highest rated ever players of Team Japan, Kithara, who has a rating peak of I think 830 something if I'm not mistaken, definitely above 800. They should be the favorite against Godfrieded van Bouillon, but maybe a 70% favorite, not more than that. So we do expect to win for Team Japan on table 1. On table 2, Ivan Bell of the Netherlands versus Waiguru Guai of Japan. That might be not a very famous player, but they have been quite active on topcarcassonne.com. That is the platform for Carcassonne puzzles, so they should have gained a deep knowledge of the game right now. They had crossed the 700 master threshold earlier on. And in fact, all Japanese players have done so at some point. On table 3, Jon Nordwijk versus Should. Again, the Japanese player should be the favorite here. Maybe 60%, around that. On table 4, a massive favorite for one of the newer Japanese masters. Now, ATRT has been around the block for a long time, but only recently they managed to cross their 800 rating threshold, I believe. And their opponent, Die Schleip, a Dutch expert who's going to have quite a uphill battle. Now, the closest pairing rating-wise is going to be on table 5 between Loose-Goose versus Pyro. There again, Pyro, who had a peak rating of 800, I believe, or something very close to that, should be, again, maybe a 60% favorite. So that's a truly uphill climb for the Netherlands. We have seen, of course, tougher comebacks happen in the history of the championship, but based on the lineup of the Netherlands, I kind of get the impression that they're not hoping for much, because they did not line up two of their strongest players, Zwaliwood and Bexy. Maybe this is to let leaders rest before other strategically important jewels in this group, or maybe there were some practical reasons why these two players couldn't play. So I want to start with table 1. Even though on table 5 the duel is going to be a bit closer, I haven't seen Kithara in action for a long time, and their Carcassonne is always so spectacular, so well thought out, so we could learn a lot and admire the aesthetics and creativity of their moves. Hi, Kaika. Yeah, so let's just, before moving to the tournament games, have a quick look at the group situation. Now, Group D, this is where the Colombia and Guatemala are. I'm going to preview their match a little bit later. It's happening in an hour, so before Netherlands versus Japan is going to be finished. And Group E, this is where Netherlands, Japan, and also Czech Republic are. Now, the top 2 teams qualify for the playoffs automatically, and the Netherlands does not necessarily need to win today. Maybe their key duel is going to be against Team Czech Republic, as the Netherlands are expected to be the favorite against the United States, but a slight underdog to the Czech Republic, who, by the way, were one of the 3 teams last year who won all of their group matches. And maybe this is the reason why Zwollywood and Bexy are resting today. So yeah, and for Team Japan, they're the clear group favorites. They're the 4-time world champions, and I think they have an even stronger roster than last year. So, die Schleip. These are all the Dutch players. These are all the Japanese players, and Kithara is the one who we're going to follow. So Godfried's playing the green meeples. They're going to be the starting player. Kithara with their traditional black. A reminder to everybody that each duel is a best of 3 encounter. So Kithara already places a black meeple on a 4-point road, which is surrounding Godfried's monastery. He's now trying to invade that road, and Kithara does not get a tile that could prevent that. So the best that he can do is simply start a new city, exerting some pressure on this square if need be. Maybe enjoying some backdoor ideas of going over here and creating a huge ruin. But in reality, the reason why you meeple these pieces is simply not to give back a shielded tile to your opponent. Like green could draw a Dorito tile, start a new city like this. That certainly would not be something that green wants. But what green does want is to be the first one to be on the scoreboard, score 4 points for the city at the bottom, prepare 2 more monastery spots, but Kithara in the meantime is ruthless to trying to block the square. First of all, he denied green the opportunity to invade this 5-point road, and second, he's even covering up the square from the other side, making sure that green is likely to stay trapped there with 2 meeples. There's only 1 tile in the entire deck that fits into the square, so a 50 chance that Kithara draws it. And we see an imprecision here from Godfried. This move that he played actually makes a lot of sense. You know, you start a new city, you cover up your road on one side, but covering up the road in this particular instance is not necessarily the wisest thing to do, because there's a 50% chance that this meeple is going to get blocked on one side. And in order to prepare yourself for this eventuality, what you want to be doing as green is to actually keep your road open as far as possible and try to just extend, and keep scoring. It is possible that we're going to end up with a closed position in this game, and in that case, every point can matter. And to have this road open as an instrument for scoring points is super valuable. We also see another much more severe mistake by Godfried here, starting a new city over here, which led to Kithara taking some inspiration from his former teammate Takafumi Mochizuki, and with the triple crossroads city tile going over here, scoring 2 points, and also exerting enormous pressure on this square. Somebody's going to meeple the city cap eventually, which will allow black to go and play against this square, and maybe even trap this meeple as well. And it may seem that these imprecisions are small, but in fact, the consequence on the rest of the game is huge. But what does it matter, says Godfried, if he's going to get 2 monasteries to stack? And there's a 3rd monastery possibility here, a 4th monastery possibility over here. So if Godfried manages to complete his monastery soon enough, he really doesn't care so much about getting his meeple blocked. But let's see where this leads us. Godfried just playing like there's no tomorrow. He doesn't care about this meeple at all. I'm absolutely shocked about this move. Kithara has no chance to block. He wants a straight line desperately to cover up this square, and instead he gets, of course, another lovely tile. 8 points for black, equalizes on the scoreboard. Godfried with a splitter tile. Not many super valuable options. Maybe going over here, starting a new city, exerting some pressure on this here square is an option. Maybe even going over here and going for the field is not crazy. This is a creative option. trying to start a new city and also exert some pressure on this square. And in fact, if green draws the last remaining triple city with the road, he can go over here and block 2 of these meeples together, tying them together to this square. So this is absolutely critical. In the meantime, Kithara also gets the first monastery of the game for 7 points. Godfrieded with an inconsequential straight line. And finally, Kithara, I'm pretty sure it's going to go over here and block this meeple, which green could have saved, but didn't. But black is thinking here. And do I get the feeling that he's considering doing something other than blocking here? And that's a possibility. He could also go over here and try and exert some pressure against this square. Or he could delay the block and pre-build this road next to his monastery, looking to get another crossroad tile and score 4 points. Nope, eventually the block is what happens. And I have to agree with the Japanese player here. You know, making one move, killing off an entire meeple of your opponent is something that's extremely valuable. But all is not lost for black. For green, that is. Green's still ahead on the scoreboard. Green has an extra monastery, another monastery spot to continue. Still a 50-50 chance to get a curve and get a meeple back, and Kithara still has this sensitive situation up top. Hi Nalaheim, hi Glavier, hi Ian. I see rooting for the Netherlands here. Great move here from Godfried. Already leaving only one tile that fits into the square. And also has plenty of options to get any road tile and further damage this square permanently. Leaving these meeples no chances. And somehow, despite playing like there's no tomorrow meeple-wise, it looks like Godfried is going to end up with a long-term meeple advantage. Kithara is a bit down on the clock, now slid under the 10-minute mark, and they'll be thinking at the moment, so is there any way how we can salvage this here critical square? If you do something like this, you're really not helping yourself much, because there's still plenty of curves or crossroads that go here as a blocking tile. Now, if you do something like this, then it does help you a little bit, because there are still several combos of the triple city plus the last remaining starting tile or the last remaining butterfly maybe to go over here and finish the road and the city. But realistically though, Kithara is probably looking to just finish the road and not really caring about this square and finishing the city. So turning this tile like this, if you want to do a defense, it's actually something that makes a lot of sense, especially considering that 6 straight lines are already on the board, so there are only 2 remaining in the deck, so there are actually not that many options that Godfried can use to block this square permanently. Another approach to this situation is simply completely ignoring this square, accepting the fates of these 2 meeples and just trying to get compensation elsewhere. So a natural move would be either going over here, meepling a 4-point road and completing the monastery, or maybe going over here, trying to play against that square and trap some of Godfried's meeples in return. Kithara really taking his time here because it's a strategic decision, really. It depends on where you want to take this game, and he decides that he wants to keep that 50-50 chance for as long as possible. If he does get that triple city tile, then his position is just great. And the logic here is that there's so many tiles that fit into the square that he can simply finish this monastery later. Godfried starting a new city on the right. It's actually a great move, putting pressure on several of Kithara's squares. So now, for example, it's not that easy for Kithara to continue his monastery. So let's say if he goes with this tile over here, meeples the road, then suddenly Godfried can meeple the city cap, score 4 points, and exert pressure further on this here square, but, well, Kithara appears to be unperturbed. Godfried connects the city of his own to the larger city of Kithara, which actually is something that black should find as relief. Because this city was in danger of getting blocked, now that the fate of the black and the green meeple are tied together, it really doesn't matter whether they get blocked or not. Japan here, with 5 points extra and a meeple, immediately reinvest this meeple for 6 more monastery points. Godfried, okay. I was a bit surprised about this move. It definitely makes a lot of sense to play this, right? Because he's blocking 2 of Kithara's meeples permanently. But it comes at a price of 5 points or maybe even more. I would definitely be inclined to just meeple this 5-point road and try and complete this block a little bit later. And I still think that equity-wise at least, meepling the 5-point road was simply better. Because, first of all, there's still a 50-50 chance that we're not going to... Interesting. Anyway, there's still a 50-50 chance that Kithara simply is not going to draw the critical tile. But you can't really argue with a permanent block of 2 meeples. In the meantime, Godfried is sacrificing 5 points again, which I find rather questionable. And look at this. This block did pay off, but Kithara has this triple city tile invested in another place for 5 points. So really this blocking sequence cost Godfried 10 points, and then you have to ask yourself, what is more valuable, a meeple or 10 points? And this position is so dry and closed that maybe taking points is more important, but who knows? Kithara gets 3 points, and most importantly, he draws the crucial crossroads, which means that these 2 meeples of green are going to be stuck. But regardless, green is still actually doing quite okay. There's a key move that green needs to find here. I believe that the path to victory is to do something like this. So we take advantage of this empty city cap, and we start a new city. And then we face it downwards, hoping for one of the 3 remaining city caps. Kithara is stuck with 1 meeple, so he can't really do much. After we get our city cap, then we drop a farmer here for 9 points. But Godfried sadly chickens out and simply adds 2 points to his city. The beauty of this idea here is that it works basically 90% of the time, and when it does, it brings 17 points at least to green for the price of 1 meeple. Certainly something that Kithara would not be able to match. But, you know, so far green is still doing just fine. He continues his city at the bottom. Kithara really can't do that much. Maybe just continuing his monastery would make sense, because he wants to try and get some meeples back. 20 tiles is a lot to be spending with just 1 meeple, but Godfried... Oh, yeah? Really? He's trying to block the square, but he did so instantly, and I wonder, why not gamble? Why not try and go for this 8-point monastery, which would still give us a chance to get a meeple back, because there's still one of these daggers remaining. Now, with just 1 tile remaining, it is, of course, exceptionally risky, but the upside is so huge. Well, anyway, it looks like the Dutchman's choices has been justified. No, it hasn't. Look at this. He even got the dagger. He even got the dagger to free up his monastery. So this would have been a 13-point sequence in 2 moves. But I don't think that what green did was any worse, really, because somehow he managed to block this critical square next to black's monastery. Black's going to be trapped at 8 here. which fully compensates this monastery by green. And then here, black really doesn't have a lot. Black has 4 points. Black has a slightly longer road, 5 against 3, so that's 2 extra. And then green has 7 points on this ruin. So what this means overall is that if we assume that these cities are equalized, at the moment Kithara is ahead only 1 point if you count all the points of unplayed features on the board. But, okay, I don't get this. This is just this has to be an oversight. Like, I don't get this. I don't get, why do we score 2 points when we have 4 points? I genuinely don't get this. So I know that Kithara is sometimes playing 3-dimensional Carcassonne, and maybe his idea was something that he needs to get, he just wants to leave more city caps lying around. But I really don't see the justification of scoring less when you can score more. Godfried gets himself a meeple back. He's now ahead quite massively. And it looks like we're headed for an upset, unless black manages to come up with something. And he's actually cooking at the moment. So this here move makes it much harder, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, much harder for green to connect to this city. Because remember when I was counting the points, I was just assuming that this connection would be made, but maybe it won't. And in that case, black can get himself an extender and go over here and have himself a 16-point ruin versus just a 3-point village by Godfried. Still, the 5 points on the scoreboard and the extra meeple should make life relatively easy for the Dutchman. There's also some farming options. You can go here, for example, for a 6-point field with another city cap here. Instead, he goes for a different field, which I'm not sure how to feel about. Well, it also makes sense, but it ends up to be not as valuable because look at this, that third city cap is restricted, and Godfried could have had already a 9-point field over here, whilst he only has a 6-point field. Now, it could end up not mattering, but it could end up mattering a lot, because this ruin here is going to give Kithara a lot of points. I think it's 16. Oh no, it's 12 actually, it's not that big. Yeah, so 12 points is maybe not even that bad. Godfried, though, doing just fine with his own ruin on the left and should still be cruising towards victory regardless. Against Kithara has some other ideas. Well, maybe just dropping this divider somewhere on the left and hoping to get a couple of city caps for scoring would be the way to go. High played, Mac. Malaham is saying the lost points for monasteries in this game are painful. I have to agree. Referring to this monastery, which could have scored 13 over here. And I presume this monastery, which also could have scored 5 points over here for a road, for example. Lyron Brown is suggesting maybe Kithara did not want to take the 2 point, did not want to take this city cap in order to avoid creating a 9-point field. Yeah, I was thinking something like this. So maybe that was on purpose. Maybe that wasn't an oversight, but still, like, it's a 2-point sacrifice. So I think this wasn't about the field necessarily. This was just recognizing that he's behind enough that he needs to create more scoring opportunities, I guess. So his plan was, I think I know what his plan was. So you see, at the time of this move, Godfried had this city over here. And so in Kithara's mind, when he leaves this city cap open, he's much more likely to score the city cap himself rather than Godfried scoring for the city cap, because Godfried already needs a city cap to liberate his meeple on the right. So maybe that was the idea. Yeah, maybe that actually works. Okay, Godfried now gets a Dorito tile. I doubt there are significant things to be accomplished here. Well, there's a neat move again. You can still go for this pattern with a 75% chance. Yeah, actually, it's not even that bad. So if you go here and meeple this, then you have a 75% chance of getting a 6-point city and a meeple back, and you still have the 50% chance of connecting to this ruin. So these are sort of 3 critical tiles. But at this score, it's probably not worth it, because Godfried still should be ahead, I think. Yeah, Godfried's ahead. 6 points, exactly. If I counted correctly, we're completely even on the board, and he's ahead 6 points on the scoreboard. So you know what? Maybe Kithara does have a chance. For example, option 1, Kithara scores 4, then goes here with the last curve, takes a 9-point field, and then Godfried goes here for 3 points and fails to connect to the field. That's one scenario. Another scenario, Godfried gets the last cow tile, and then he makes a mistake and chooses to connect over here. And then Kithara reinvades that city. Although I doubt there were tiles for this available, so both players exchange quick points moves. Godfried should be ahead 7 right now. Kithara can score 2, I guess. That's about the best that he can do. Yeah, really rough position for the Japanese player here, because he needs to compensate for 6 points, and also he needs to draw the last cow tile so that green does not connect over here. So two quick points is a natural move to follow. Also, Kithara has barely any time remaining. Only 30 seconds, and Godfried scores even more. Kithara gets his 9-point farm, but a tad too late. Godfried's gonna get a 6-point farm of his own, I presume. Somewhere here, perhaps. And he's still going to have a 50-50 chance of equalizing this big ruin. Not that he has to. A precise endgame for Kithara, who knew that the last tile was a city cap. So there's no option for this guy to score 3 extra points from the farmer. He gets 1 extra point from the city. So this is headed into an interesting direction. Kithara is suffering a loss in the first one. Immense time pressure from the Dutchman's side. Also, yeah, do let me know which pairing do you prefer to watch next. Lately, I've been liking to stay with one table, but presuming these guys finish soon enough, we have to watch somebody else. So 10 points is the score difference. Before opening the second game, I just want to have a quick look at the score in the other duels. ATRT has won the first game against Die Schleip, and that's the only result we have available to us so far. So I'm going to continue with this duel for now. And fortunately for the Dutchman, he gets to be the starting player again. Just a slight imprecision with his road already. I certainly would have liked to go here to take advantage of this road segment by Kithara. But I guess this move also makes sense to try and take advantage of these straight lines. At the moment, the Japanese player is in control with 6 points on the scoreboard, but of course only a 2-point advantage overall. And still a favorable position for green due to his starting player advantage. Now Kithara with the Dorito tile has an interesting choice. So do you go over here and start the most highest scoring city that is available, but leave it vulnerable to blocks and invasions on multiple sides, or the other option was to just go here and start a smaller city but one that is safer? Kithara went for greed, a choice which I can empathize with, and it looks like it's about to work. So a Dorito for Kithara can allow him to go over here and try and equalize that road. And fantastic tile for Godfried. No, he has several options. He can just go here, continue his city, and also block this connection, or he can just go straight up. And it might even be worth meepling this 1-point road in order to not allow Kithara the loop. He chooses not to do that, and there are some good reasons for that as well. So Godfried's catching up on the scoreboard. Kithara is threatening to cover up with the city, but just in time an extender tile for Godfried, which should go here instantly, really. Like, there's no point in even spending these 2 or 3 seconds and trying to decide. Like, we know which move is going to be played eventually. So the reason why I have to go over here is because Kithara is threatening to draw a Dorito, which could go over here, and that would cover up all the invasion platforms, and then there would be only a city cap remaining to completely finish that monstrous construction. Yeah, and look at this. So Godfried immediately goes over here, and it's not really good time management spending these 30 seconds extra, especially if Kithara has shown that he's willing to burn his time quite a lot. When you can, you really want to exert that time pressure. So maybe something happened away from the keyboards. Players can have all kinds of distractions in their homes. Kithara with a lovely sequence. First of all, building up a loop road, and second, blocking the invasion square, but just in time Godfried trying to sneak into the city through the other route. And a great move from Godfried, actually. This is from the Japanese playbook, really, to meeple a low-scoring monastery, but one which is controlling 2 of his opponent's features. This is already a 4-point monastery. Kithara is now contemplating a farmer, which is not really his style to do. I'm not sure if it's the right moment. It's certainly a legit move with 4 meeples remaining. So let's see what he decides. Definitely he can go either way. The one risk here is that Godfried can take a straight line, go over here, and with that limit a lot of these fields' potential whilst also exerting pressure on Kithara's city. But in case this field does grow, it's certainly nice to have the tempo on it to force green to invest more resources and tiles and time into equalization. Black tries to indirectly attack Green city on the left. Green does not choose to defend. Interesting, he starts a new city himself. Not a move which I at all agree with. This city has so many points that it was important to go over here and try to cover up from the invasion, and maybe then try and renew the threat of completing that city a little bit later. Because look now, Kithara now managed to completely equalize this city. And what do we have accomplished? Like, this guy who has invested so many tiles in the city is going to get equalized by just 2 moves from the Japanese player. So this move that was played in the game with the new city started by Godfried is not bad necessarily, but it's just a question of prioritization. Also, there are downsides to this move as well. Like, it adds quite a lot of green squares to the field. It also is building a city in his opponent's field. I probably would really like to wait towards that straight line. But now the board has taken a completely different shape. And Kithara just came up with an absolutely fantastic move. Did you see that? So this move does so much. First of all, it's threatening to take over a big city from his opponent. I think this is obvious, but in case he's unsuccessful, he can score this city cap, and all of this will be part of his big field. And at this point, the field of black has really reached that critical mass that it is a must fight for feature. Godfried is trying to save his city from a block. Kithara, with a move that surprises me. I did not expect the Japanese player to just bail out from the city, and I think that was a mistake. I think Kithara's strongest move was actually to go over here and put pressure on Godfried's meeple and still keep the option open for that city invasion. Kithara is still doing just fine on the scoreboard and on the field, and gutsy move here by Godfried. Meepling a 3-point field and choosing to try and invade the main field. I was going to say via a risky route, but this is actually a brilliancy from the Dutchman. Because there's no reliable way to block this square. So there are 2 vanilla city caps, 2 regular monasteries, and 2 road monasteries for a total of 6 tiles that fit into this square. And regardless of what you place here for obstruction, it's only possible to reduce the number of tiles that fit into the square to 2 at a minimum, which is 75% chance, so it's still good enough. Moreover, even if this guy does not connect to the main field, there are enough of green squares and a city already to justify the existence of this farmer on his own. He could just develop it here into another field. He could go here with a curve and then complete this city. And then this city would score 10 points, and it will be also part of this field for an extra 3 points. And there is another far-fetched scenario, but it's not at all crazy. So completing this city, and then going here to invade the main field all the way from the outside. In Carcassonne, fields tend to unite into one big field, unless efforts are undertaken by one side to prevent that from happening. Such is the move that was now played by Kithara. It was extremely annoying for Godfried, and in fact, he's almost definitely losing this meeple, or maybe not. That's a fantastic tile for Godfried, which again should be placed there instantly, really, because you go over here, you probably meeple that 4-point road, and then with a couple of city caps, you try and finish an even larger city and maybe even drop some farmers. He's thinking whether it's worth to invest a meeple into this road, and with so many curves remaining, the answer is yes. Black, of course, is going to try and put some pressure on that square by finishing this city, I presume, and maybe even dropping a farmer. Another option for black is to go over here and farm here, but it appears to be a bit too early for this. A third option is to do neither of this and try to play here and block this guy. Now, black does drop the second insurance farmer, and Godfried could do something about this. So a move that I'm thinking is maybe going over here, trying to cut off this farmer from the main field. Instead, Godfried places a move which I really profoundly disagree with. I don't like this one at all. Like, if you're not going to go over here, and if you're not going to play against your farmer, which is your prerogative, then at the very least just go here and connect your small city to the big one. Because what this move does, it just reduces the amount of threats that you have. It was still realistic to try and get 2 city caps and finish the city soon. And at the very least, Kithara would be forced to invest a meeple for equalization. Now the city's really not urgent, and now he's hoping for something like 3 Doritos maybe. So it does not appear to be a particularly dangerous city anymore. In the meantime, Kithara connects to the main field with the second meeple, and this field is now just ginormous, really. So 4 cities and multiple green squares. Green gets 2 points for the road. Kithara is now probably gonna keep attacking that city. Or maybe drop a farmer. That's also not crazy. I think that's premature, but eventually black will be looking to get a 3rd farmer to secure his majority on the field, because the scoreboard lead is such that I don't see black winning in ways that don't involve overtaking the field from black, really. Maybe if green gets a lot of quick points, that would be an option. Or green could also still threaten the completion of that city. City cap and a bunch of Doritos, that's an option. So let's see how the Japanese player chooses to play this. There's also another option of going here and dropping a farmer, creating an additional vulnerability in green city, also looking here for an invasion of the guy on the right. All a tad premature if you ask me. I would honestly just block here, really, and this is exactly what the Japanese player does. Now, this is a fantastic tile for Godfried, and this is a great chance to catch up on the scoreboard and take some risks. Now, he might just go over here and connect to the main farm, and I can't really blame him for that. But I feel like his deficit is dire enough that a risky move like this or like this is in order. The reason why both of these moves are super risky is because these monasteries are subject to an easy block. For example, with the road Dorito, this would permanently block this square and leave Godfried with a long-term equal disadvantage. Or if you go over here, the same could be accomplished with a regular monastery, for example. But it's probably a risk that you should be willing to take at that stage of the game, because with a lucky run out of tiles, you can score upwards of 12 points here. So you go here, then maybe you get a curve, and then maybe you get a butterfly tile and score 3 points for the road, and then you get 12. No, you gotta be... Okay, this is a hallucination from Godfried. This move instantly loses the game. And I'm pretty sure that, like, the realization is going to hit in the second. So the idea to invade the field is okay. And he meeples the monastery because it looks like, you know, it's 5 points. It's only needs a couple of tiles to get completed. The problem is that this square is permanently blocked, and this square is permanently blocked. So this monastery is double blocked, and this meeple is double trapped. It's going to score at most 7 points. And in this position, with 24 tiles remaining, of course, a meeple is incomparably more valuable than 7 points. Moreover, in the short term, the value of this move is actually -1 point. Because Godfried van Bouillon is now conceding this farm and essentially burning his meeple, because these were two separate farms, and now it's one big farm with one green meeple versus two black meeples. So now it does two things. First of all, this farmer is scoring 0 when it used to score 3. So that's -3. Then this farm is now scoring 15 instead of scoring 12, because these two farmers are now controlling this city. So that's a further -3 points. And then, of course, Godfried got 5 points for this monastery and lost a meeple. So the value of Godfried's move was -1 point and -1 meeple. And yeah, probably literally any other move would have given Green a better chance at winning this game. And that's why I have no doubt in my mind that it was just a temporary hallucination. It sometimes happens with this monastery placement that, you know, the square looks pretty and you just forget that it was already blocked. On the bright side for Team Netherlands, the city at the bottom is still live after quite quickly Godfried drew one of the two remaining daggers, but Kithara was prompt to create another vulnerability here, requiring Green to draw the ultimate dagger as well. So, quick points are being scored by both players. Also, yeah, Godfried's really suffering hard, because look at this. There were so many chances to connect over here to Kithara's city, but now this connection was permanently blocked because no triple cities go into that square. And these points actually matter because this guy's scoring 2 and this guy's scoring 6. So 4 points is the difference. Yeah, very, very rough game here. So Kithara is going to win this. I have no doubt about this. I'm just going to be curious whether Godfried is going to manage to psychologically recover for the third. I certainly would hope so. And maybe even he can create some threats. So if he gets this dagger tile soon enough and some sort of city cap, and maybe even drops a farmer over here and tries to connect to the field, then he still has some chances. Although Kithara should be finding some ways to secure a supermajority on the field. Actually, there are not easy ways to invade the field, really. Well, let's see what happens there. But I am curious to just update the scoreboard and see if any other games have been finished. Well, some of them have. Ivan Bell is doing pretty well against Waiguru Y. Should is predictably defeating Jon Nordwijk. And Loose-Goose has taken a game off of Pyro. So far, Netherlands are actually ahead in this match. Talk about upset opportunities. In the meantime, Godfried just moves all in, places his last meeple with the hopes of finishing a 6-point city. Is going to be instantly denied by Kithara with this invasion over here. Or actually, all is not lost. Because even if Kithara invades, what he should do, there's still 2 splitters for Godfried to get his 6 points and a meeple back. It's just probability-wise, the chances of Green are not great because he's relying on so specific tiles, whereas Kithara can achieve a productive move with almost anything that's still in the deck. Afonso is saying Godfried has a strange way with monasteries. Oh yeah, that's actually true, because in the first game he did not meeple very valuable monasteries, but here he did, well, what he did. Again, stream jitters, you know, you get starstruck by playing a former Japanese legend. who's making their comeback to the scene. Look at this, the splitter, bam! And still a slight time advantage. So against all odds, the Netherlands are somehow still in this. Alrighty, so both players exchange 6-point cities, and that really should be all she wrote, because this is not just any city cap. This city cap is the one that fits into this square, which means that this square is now blocked and this people is now permanently trapped, and Godfried has no more significant threats. Of course, he can later equalize the field, but even if he equalizes, he's not going to have further meeples left to score anything really. And yeah, rough. So we will be moving on to mostly other games, really. But we'll be looking at this one with one eye, just to see what the scoreboard difference is. And the one that I'm probably most interested in watching is the one between Pyro and Loose-Goose. Oh, look at this! Loose-Goose won by a tie! Wow, wow. And they're currently playing their decider. So let's see how these guys are doing. Wait. This is the problem of opening so many tabs. Yeah, there we go. Let me just put these two games close together so that we can navigate between them with some more dexterity. So, what are we having here? Pyro's playing his traditional red, Loose-Goose playing very bright yellow. And he's ahead 4 points on the scoreboard. He also has a pleasantly looking 8-point city here. And still one tile that fits into the square to try and finish it. But even if he doesn't, this square is tied to Pyro's road in any case. So this is a good situation for the Netherlands, because this yellow guy will be enjoying, at the very least, a winning mini battle. On the other side of the board, we have a city of Loose-Goose, which is not that easily to be finished, but with just one Dorito, he could renew the threat of its completion. Pyro, on the other hand, is doing pretty well with monasteries, with a cluster over here, and just 2 straight lines away from adding 18 points to the scoreboard and 2 meeples back into his hand. A likely occurrence given the fact that 5 straight lines are still in the deck. On the monastery front, the Dutchman's not far behind, just needs a crossroads and any curvy tile to get the same number of points on his board. This city is not great, perhaps. Whilst it's not that hard to fill the square, there are just too many squares to be filled, and the problem with Loose-Goose's position is that too many of his investments are, how do you say this, focused on one particular commodity. Yeah, so it's like a city here, city here, city here. You need city plus road tiles everywhere. So probably red is my preference in this position overall, but it's a slight preference. A lot has to happen in this game. Lucy now took 2 points at the bottom, furthering his scoreboard lead by a little bit. Pyro with a city. Not sure what he's going to do. Yeah, chooses to just discard this tile. Not an easy decision to have been made. Lucy now with some interesting options. Now, he could go here, actually. That wouldn't be bad, right? That wouldn't be bad at all. And then he could create a realistic threat to finishing his city. And then he would also pre-build a long road which goes through his monastery, which he could meeple. He could be pre-finishing his own monastery, hoping for a crossroads here, which he's hoping for anyway. The problem with that move is that he would be immediately liberating Pyro's monastery without freeing up his own. And so probably I actually expect him to pass up on this option and maybe go here, or even here, trying to just create some threats. The weakest move in this position would be to go over here. There's an abundance of city caps still in the deck, so it's okay to keep the city open for a little while longer. So I love this decision here. It was really not easy at all. Lucy now taking 2 points, preparing 2 of his monasteries to get completed. And really, really now starting to think about that upset against Team Japan. Pyro, let's see how desperate he's gonna get. Now, a normal move by Pyro would be to do something like this, then wait for a city plus field tile to go over here and finish his city. But a more decisive course of action, one which of course is associated with more risk, is to go over here and try to go for a rhombus-shaped city, and he goes for it, hoping for one of the 2 remaining Doritos, which is drawn by Lucy, or one of the, how do you call them? Splitter tiles. Well, one of them is here, one is in the deck. So even after this move by Lucy, there's still one more tile that fits over here. But look at this. I think it's a definitely way too passive a move by Pyro. Yeah, he's trying to defend, of course, his city, and I can understand him, but just get the 8 points, man. Just kiss this meeple goodbye. It's not horrible to have this meeple blocked, because this here move, this attempt at defending the square, cost Pyro a lot of points. First of all, it cost him 5 points in the short term. It also cost him 2 points over here because he didn't have a tile to place here. At the very least, though, he is getting his field a little bit longer, so that's kind of nice for him. But yeah, still rough for the Japanese player. Even after completing one of his monasteries, he's still behind on the scoreboard. This threat of an 8-point city, of course, is nice. Would have been better if he had actually completed it. Now he's probably looking to break something with this tile. Yeah, that makes sense. We don't want for this city to be completed. And now, a city cap tile from Lucy. So, do we just go here and get a meeple back, or do we take a more decisive course of action, go here, try to invade that city, or at the very least deny Pyro easy 8 points, then we hope for another city cap to finish the city later, or a curve to get the monastery meeple back. In the meantime, let's just quickly catch up on the other game. Yeah, so as expected, nothing much has really happened. Kithara still has the majority on the field, and I expect it to stay that way. The big city at the bottom grew somewhat, but not by much. So let's see how the points are counted. Kithara manages to equalize the score, and this duel is going to be headed toward the decider. Yeah, Lucy's still thinking about this move. And it makes sense. It's a good spot to use your brain and your time. Wait, Kithara somehow wins with only 6 points. How is that possible? Why is it only 6 points? What on earth did Godfried manage to accomplish to make this so close? Now I'm intrigued. Well, certainly it appears that Kithara had the control in this game. But the final score I do find surprising. In any case, this one will be headed toward the decider, which we're actually going to open now. So back to Pyro. And great choice here by Lucy, who ended up not allowing Pyro easy points. He also got himself a meeple back. Players are exchanging quick points. Pyro's ahead 8 points on the scoreboard, but Lucy has the extra monastery and some decent ruins. Pyro, in the meantime, is enjoying the biggest and, in fact, only field in the game, with 9 points in the center. Straight line for Pyro. Makes a move with which I don't actually agree. I think a stronger idea was to go over here. It looks like a self-block, but it really isn't. With 2 starting tiles remaining, he could have given himself a 75% chance to complete his city, and now what Lucy can do is not go here, and not go here, but instead go here, permanently blocking this red guy. Oh wait, that also wouldn't work. Ah, that also wouldn't work, would it? Because there's still these here tiles available. Oh, this is sneaky, sneaky. So what do we do as Lucy? I think we just take 3 points, really. Because with the extra monastery and the ruins, there is a scenario where we can withstand the completion of the city, maybe? Actually, no, it's really tough. Oh, can we go here, maybe? Yeah, that's the move. Or is it? No, it's not quite that, because there wouldn't be a permanent block either. Yeah, I think now I understand Pyro's idea. It's actually very difficult for Lucy to do anything about that city, because this here move is the most restrictive. Because there are no butterfly tiles, but there's still 1 dagger remaining after this. Yeah, and the Dutchman doesn't have a lot of time on their clock. Just under 4 minutes, and with 8 tiles remaining, it's a lot of things to calculate. So basically, first of all, you need to decide the main thing. Can you afford Red finishing the city? He decides that yes, he can. Red, taking a straight line. Not an obvious decision here. Lucy decided to not take 3 points, but simply to liberate the meeple a little bit sooner. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. With only 1 curve remaining, it actually makes sense. I mean, with no curves remaining, that is. Lucy, ahead on the scoreboard. Again, needs to make a decision. Do we go over here and take the 4 points and make the natural move? Or do we go over here and try to equalize the city, maybe? That's also not crazy. Or do we try and make a run for it and try to complete one of our bigger cities? Oh, with this move, I also noticed that Lucy, in theory, could have gone over here and tried to complete his big city, but I assume that his idea was that he does not need any big city completions in order to win this game, and I'm inclined to agree with him. Hi, Napalm. So, Lucy goes for 4 points. Still 2 city caps available for Pyro to finish his city, and he doesn't get them, but he gets a splitter, which is a fantastic tile. It allowed him to finish an 8-point city and get a 6-point farmer, which I have no doubt is what is going to occur. With 4 minutes, I guess you can afford to have a bit of an extra second to think. But really, the move which everybody is thinking about is so high scoring that I doubt there's any real decision to be made. And probably I would be inclined to make it a bit faster just to put that time pressure on Lucy, because 2.5 minutes is not a lot to solve an endgame with 5 tiles remaining, and you don't want for Lucy to be thinking during your time. And even if Pyro finds some brilliant idea, which does not include making the obvious move, just giving the Dutchman this extra time to think and solve this endgame might be more important than making the objectively best move. This is what I try to tell to my teammates about time management, that very often, especially in live games, by the way, where you don't have as much time as in these online games, sometimes it is better to make the second best move but save time, because it gives you a better winning probability, because it decreases the likelihood that you're going to make a mistake in the future. Yeah, and look at this, like Pyro goes for this move anyway. But Lucy had now 2 extra minutes to think, compared to what he would have had. Well, Lucy now taking a 9-point field. It's a pretty obvious move, and Pyro finishing his city and dropping a 6-point farmer. Now, a lot of farmers are belonging to the Japanese player Lucy with a lot of extra meeples. He needs to make a decision. He needs to calculate. Do we just go for normal moves, simply a highest scoring move every step of the way, or do we need to make something special, like trying to conquer a field? I think no field invasion are possible because there are no curves remaining, so something like this with a farmer does not really work. Yeah, and so the options for yellow are something like this, taking 2 points for the road and 2 points for the city, so in that 4-point move. Oh, and Pyro has a chance to score a lot of points for himself. There's still at least a starting tile remaining, if I'm not mistaken. And he could just drop this city cap somewhere in one of his 3 farms and hope for the starting tile to make 7 points on his last move. What is the other tile remaining? That I'm not sure of. Just trying to do a quick calculation here. Well, one thing that I can tell you is that it's certainly not a city cap. Oh, it's a biggie. The last remaining tile is a biggie. Which means that there wasn't really any real threats for Lucy. Because even after this move here, if Lucy were to draw the big tile, he could go over here and clean off the city cap and not allow Pyro the 7 points. Ah, now it's an interesting endgame puzzle for Lucy. So he needs to figure out if the last tile is a city cap or not. Oh, look at this, look at this. So the high scoring move available for him is to go over here for a 4-point road. At least I don't see anything. But he needs to be worried. What if I go here? Does my opponent invade the field? Or even worse, if I go here, does my opponent meeple the city cap and score 7 points? The answer to both of these questions is no, I think. Wait. Yeah, no, we're good. The last remaining tile is a horse tile, is a shielded horse tile. So there's no threats of that sort of thing happening. So Looking into the... he chickened out. Chick. Chickened out. And took 1 point less. It took a 3-point road instead of a 4-point road. You see, this is what time pressure does to you. And that's why Pyro should have made his moves even sooner. So let's see if that 1 point made any difference or not. I didn't quite count who was ahead. So Lucy does have all these extra cities, but Pyro does have a lot of fields. It looks like things are going to be pretty close, but Pyro does have a lot of fields. A lot of fields. A lot of fields. And the Japanese player is going to have it with a 5-point difference. Very exciting game. Pyro back to master status. Loosey-Goosey gave him a run for his money, but it appeared that table 5 was crucial for Netherlands' chances. Now it's going to be very hard for the European team to try and make an upset. Well, with more precise play, I guess Lucy could have gotten himself 1 more point. And other than that, I'm not even really sure what to recommend here. Maybe blocking this city was an opportunity, but not really, because regardless of how you try to block it, there would have been some way to fight against it. Well, maybe with the starting tile earlier going over here, trying to limit it to the 2 horses, that would be a way perhaps. But again, very complicated endgame, and that's why time matters so much. All right, so we congratulate Japan on this dual points. Let's see how we're doing for score. Yeah, and it appears that Japan have almost guaranteed themselves the win in this match. Yes, they have guaranteed themselves the win in this match. Because Should won against Nordwijk. And ATRT won against Die Schleip. And Pyro just won against Loosey-Goosey. Can we just double check that? Are all 3 games already complete? Oh, no. They're just playing the decider. Oh, they're playing the decider. That's their 3rd game. Okay, there we go. That's actually kind of interesting. And I think I'm more interested in watching that duel. So, since that game just started, how is Godfried doing here? Oh man, I'm so torn. I want to look at both. Okay, let's start with the game that has progressed the most, which is Godfried against Kithara. So the Netherlands still have a chance in this match. They need to win on this table, win on that other table, and also Ivan Bell would need to win against Waiguru Y, which is doable. So 3 games remaining. And 3 victories are required by the Netherlands. Okay, now it's a very interesting situation. Like, I'm not going to analyze everything. All I'm going to say right now, looking at this, if Godfried doesn't go for the obvious, super safe 8-point monastery here. Oh, okay, actually, that's not that obvious. Okay, I can't watch this. Oh, God. So, the move in this position, it seems to me, you just go here for 8 points, and then you still have a 75% chance to get one of the 2 vanilla tiles and get yourself a meeple back, right? At least it so seems. And then maybe you can even meeple that city and try to threaten that. Okay, but the Dutchmen chose not to do that. Instead, they went here for a 6-point monastery, which turned out not to be a monastery, but that turned out to be a road. Okay, on top of this, that that move gave a bunch of green squares to this guy who was actually suffering and now not suffering anymore. So this black farmer over here. Yeah. I don't know what to say. It's a very, very strange relationship with monasteries. And looks like a major missed opportunity. Because 75% is an amazing chance in a position like this. But let's see, maybe there were some reasons why Godfrey chose not to do that. So let's try and analyze this position. Now, the reason why you might want to forego a monastery like this, first of all, there's no justifiable reason, of course, but the reason why you might think about this is if you're ahead far enough that you want to reduce variance as far as possible. The issue with that proposition is that the Dutchman is not ahead at all. So ahead, of course, 2 points on the scoreboard, but look at Black. Black has a lovely 7-point monastery over here, still a 75% chance to get a city cap and get his meeple back. So this means that Godfried will have to draw a city cap regardless. And then also because of this square is blocked, green has only 1 point over here. And this guy has like at least 8. But that's not all. Kithara has a threat here, to finish some more cities. Now, Godfried has an interesting city over here, but it's currently being controlled by the new Kithara's monastery. And also, look at the difference in attitude. So, Godfried chose to forego an almost sure monastery of 9 points, or 8 points and more. And Kithara just calmly decided to place a monastery on 4 points, and it's completely justified. Because it's already 5, it's putting control on this square, and there's a reasonable chance of it getting completed. Godfried keeps getting points, he's ahead on the scoreboard. He's no longer realistically threatening the city, though, because there are no roads Dorito to fit into the square. And in fact, there are no triple cities either, so this square is completely trapped. The Saruin, though, constitute a respectable effort. 15 tiles to be played. Kithara now needs to make a decision. Do we go over here and block our own monastery just for the sake of not allowing Godfried to create a longer city, or do we do this? And that's very interesting. So he chooses to go there to prolong his field. Now he's going to go here to prolong his field even longer, right? Because this guy is suddenly getting some breathing room. Well, Godfried's probably going to go for a 6-point monastery now. Oh, no. Now, okay, now the situation is different. Now we probably have to forget the monastery and go for the field. Because the field is too good. The field's 9 points. We drop a farmer here. Yep. We control... Godfried's really challenging me here. Really challenging me here. Now, you might not want to drop a farmer here because of the risk of getting blocked. And it's a fair risk. So imagine if Kithara goes here and blocks us. But if that were to happen, at the very least we're getting a secondary field, because Kithara is going to finish this city eventually, in all likelihood. So it was still worth to drop it a farmer, because imagine if we don't do anything here, then Kithara just finishes the city and drops yet another farmer, and it's not something that we want to allow. Yeah, that is rather painful. Okay, that is kind of interesting. So again, I'm not surprised at all, because like just Godfried hates monasteries for some reason. It's like It's like a chess player who hates queens, or a poker player who hates pocket aces. But this move actually makes some sense. Wait, no it doesn't. No it doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. Why not just go here and meeple this farm if you're gonna go for the farm? Well, but is this like a field hallucination? Yeah, I think that green is thinking that this 3-tile field has somehow been occupied. Yeah, like, why not just go here and drop a farmer and put pressure here and try to connect over here? Yeah, I don't know, maybe nerves, maybe distractions. Yeah. Well, let's see how this one ends. It seems to me that Kithara should have it, really, just because that would be fair karmically. But you never know, and I think the reason why I never know is because there's still a dagger tile remaining, and Godfried can score a little bit. For example, he can go here, finish the city, and meeple this new 7-point road, and that certainly would give him some decent chances. Kithara, continuing his city and also making sure that it is still a threat. Godfried with a double city cap and not such great options to use it. Really, I don't have any particular recommendations here for the Dutchman. Just adding 1 point to the city does make some sense. Curvy tile for Kithara, probably looking to take 1 point next to his monastery, or maybe even to do something a bit more dangerous, maybe going over here, trying to deny Godfried one of the 2 vanilla city cap tiles with which he could score 7 points. Only 2 minutes for the Japanese player. Look, very smart move. He chooses to deny the points. And now Godfried cannot score 7, and that's huge. But you know what? Godfried can win, you know which way. He can just go over here and hope to draw 2 vanilla city caps. One over here and one over here, and simply finish his big city. That is surprisingly doable. But he does not go for it. Well, so finally he goes for some sort of farm, which could have been done ages and ages and ages and ages and ages ago. And Kithara has a decision. The most obvious thing that you might think here is just to get a meeple back. But if you're going to do that, regardless of whether that's here or here, then maybe there are chances for Godfried to get a couple of straight lines and overrun the big field. And what Kithara is currently calculating whether, first of all, that's possible and whether he can withstand it. It appears to still be possible, because one straight line is still lurking somewhere in the deck to complete this connection. And I presume there may be some sort of road tile here. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, there's a curve actually that goes over here. Kithara decides to complete the city nonetheless. Godfried, of course, gets the other vanilla city cap, which would have completed him a 9-point monastery much, much earlier in the game. But you know, what do I know? Kithara gets a scoring tile. Plenty of ideas that could be used here. Maybe just take this road, maybe just clean off the city cap, maybe clean off this city cap, or maybe just go over here. Yeah, that's really smart. That's exceptionally smart, actually, because this was the only realistic path back into the game for Godfried to go over here and then here and try and win this. So you know what I think Godfried should have done? here, he could have kind of gone here and protected that square, or maybe even he could have done something crazier, like going over here and pre-connecting these farmers and then hoping to place something here later. Also know that this is the last dagger tile, so green is not going to be finishing his city. That's a neat move from Godfried, by the way, just trying to get himself an extra city into his field. Kithara has only 30 seconds remaining, so he could lose this on time in theory. So that's why if I were a Japanese fan, I would be a little bit worried. Godfried is going to get a couple more points from a city. He has 2.5 minutes to choose where exactly. Goes for the neatest shape. Kithara gets the straight line and the 5 points, and with that, the victory in this duel and this match for Japan. But we're going to see what exactly is the score finally. Alfonso is saying Godfried is the opponent, you don't care if he gets the 6 monasteries. Yeah, this is certainly has been the theme of this entire duel, really. And not sure what to say. I mean, Godfried hates monasteries so much, his new nickname must be Richard Dawkins. But, you know, something to learn from. And as we see, the difference is not even that big. The difference is actually 2 points. So this means, oh lordy, this means that green had like 10 different opportunities to win with any of these monasteries. You know, you drop a farmer here earlier, you win. With this monastery, you go over here and drop a farmer instead of at the top, you win. With this monastery, instead of taking 2 points, you go over here for 8 points. You win. Like, so many moves. But yeah, I think very instructive. So this is what the aversion to monasteries can cost you. But we still have more Carcassonne to watch. Even though we're already congratulating Team Japan. As I've been always saying, not only the result matters, but also the final score, because they're tiebreakers, and it is better to win 5-0 than 4-1 than 3-2. So our attention is focused on the decider between Loose-Goose and Pyro. The colors have remained unchanged. The Japanese with his patriotic central red, and 6 points extra on the scoreboard. And just at first glance, this position looks absolutely wonderful for Pyro. First of all, the scoreboard stuff. Second, there's a lot of blocked stuff for Lucy, like there's this 8-point monastery, and there's this 5-point city, which are never going to be finished. But an interesting development over here. So we have a critical tile. There's quite a sizable field which currently is enjoying the control of the Japanese player. First of all, this farmer is touching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cities for 15 points. And then this farmer is getting 9 points for 3 cities. But these 3 yellow farmers are trying to overtake everything through this square, through the one remaining monastery. And in that case... Oh wait, that wouldn't work. Because they would be only taking over this field, not this field. But still, this would do a lot for Lucy. This would actually give him a massive control over this 15-point field here. And with that, probably the victory in the game, because even though Pyro's ahead on the scoreboard, like, Lucy has a lot of stuff elsewhere, like this extra monastery, like this city, and so on. If he is to get that extra monastery tile, he's going to go over here for 8 further points, and that should do it. He could even get another curve, which would make sure that these guys all eat up this 3-point meeple as well. Lucy decides to gamble it all on a final farmer, and with that, the game is going to be ended. Because this here move made sure that no invasion is possible. Wait. Yeah, no invasion is possible. This was the last dagger, so there's nothing that fit into the square to rub it in. Pyro's also scoring 6 points over here. We're gonna find out soon enough whether Lucy draws the monastery or not, but I don't think the monastery is gonna save him. Well, and Pyro gets the monasteries anyway. But you know what? The Netherlands doesn't get to complain. They have had their fair share quota of monasteries drawn. It's just all of them were drawn by Godfried, who does not want to use them. So, at the very least, for Japan won the Netherlands. Solid effort from Lucy, came pretty close to winning that second game, which was quite a complicated endgame, and I really like how he played as well. With the good time management and just trying to put pressure on Pyro as far as possible. So let's see what the final score in this one is. So plus 28 for Pyro, which does appear pretty rough, and the game seemed to be a little bit closer than that. But still, seemed like the Japanese master had it under control. So congratulations to Pyro, and all we need to check is whether the 5th duel is still underway or not. And nope, Y Guru Y had taken away all the final hope from Ivan Bell, given Japan the 5th and decisive point. So we're starting the day with 2 very rough upsets. First of all, not upsets, but very rough results. First of all, Finland blanking Australia, and then Japan asserting their dominance over the Netherlands. So we'll be moving to the next one soon enough. Let's just... I need to figure out how to do this, because... Okay, Guatemala, Colombia... Guatemala, Colombia is the match we're going to follow. Although, to be honest, I'm kind of regretting it a little bit, because I just didn't see that Taiwan and Belgium is playing. And as much as I love Guatemala and Colombia, Taiwan and Belgium are in the same group as Latvia. So I was looking forward to do some intel, but a commitment is a commitment. Or maybe we'll even get a glimpse of both. So, we're going to start with Guatemala versus Colombia as promised. And if that finishes quickly enough, we're going to have a tiny look at Taiwan versus Belgium. So, what do we expect? At the moment, we see that Dremcad, that's Sergio Antolines, who made it to the top 8 of the 2023 Mind Sports Olympiad, is ahead against King Oscar. Still not much has happened on table 2 between Extor and Dogcott. On table 3, Why Julio is in the process of upsetting the highest rated player and the main hope of Guatemala, Lycos. So we might have a look at this. Nothing much has happened on table 4 between Illusions and Trojes Henao. And on table 5, Salva 3 is winning against Chini. So let's actually have a look at table 2, maybe, just because I'm not familiar with any of these two players. Let's try and close some unused tabs from the previous match. So how are these guys doing? Wait, so was that a no-show? Then I'm curious who was the no-show. Well, certainly the Guatemalan players here. So I'm going to assume that the technical victory will be for Dogcott, right? Because it must have been their opponent who didn't show up. Yeah, and we can see from here that Extor is offline and Dogcott is offline. So I think, okay, 1 point for oh no, wait, Extor is online as well. So not sure what happened there, why these guys haven't started, but somebody must be at fault there. So change of plans. Let's have a look at Lycos if he manages to climb back against Y Julio. They're in the middle of their second game, approaching the conclusion of their second game. Two evenly rated players. And at the moment, it looks pretty good for Red because he's ahead on the scoreboard, and that's the Guatemalan player. He's also now winning a large ruin. Let's see if Green, that's Colombia, has something to show for it. Does not seem to be the case, as on top of his assets at the top, Guatemala is controlling a 15-point field in the center. And also this field is pretty much impenetrable. I wonder if Y Julio can do something like this, drop a farmer here, invade through a curve, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's still a curve available. So this is something that he could do. This is something that he might have to do. But even that might not necessarily be enough. Two minutes only for Julio. And he does not go for it, because I assume that he knew that Lycos was going to have the final curve anyway. But still, for 15, or rather 18 points, you still have to try. Lycos finishes the game with a 4-point road. No additional scoring opportunities other than maybe getting 1 point for the city. Julio is going to get this 4-pointer here. And that's going to be the end of it. So we're going to watch the decider between the two. Lycos is going to take this one down confidently, equalize the score. How are other players doing? So Illusions is playing. Not playing. Not sure what happened there. Hopefully everything's okay. So King Oscar is playing. So we have 2 duels which have been called off or postponed for some reason. But the rules for no-shows regarding this year, the rules for no-shows are much stricter in WTCOC than they are in CCL, for example, the Champions League. Well, basically, if you're 5 minutes late, then you lose your entire duel. But there isn't a rule on what happens if both players don't show up. So curious to see how that's going to be resolved. I think it might be regarded as a defeat for both players. Alrighty, so Lycos takes this one down. And let's see what happens in the decider. Yeah, so really, Guatemala's main hope is now not having the starting player advantage, as Julio takes the first 4 points, but a monastery is in Lycos' hand. For 3 points and road control. Julio starts a new city at the bottom. Lycos is going to start a new city next to his monastery with a Dorito tile. Julio with a road tile, looking to either meeple the road, yeah, which makes a lot of sense, or maybe even doing something like this, but this is the best move for sure. Lycos is going on with a very early farmer, which could cost him, because this square is slightly dangerous. I don't think Julio should go here. Just, yeah, he does for it. He just go for it. I know it's super. Actually, this is interesting. It appears to be a bit of a waste of a tile, if you ask me. But the upside of successfully going over here and blocking the square, and maybe going over here, even, and blocking 2 of these farmers is actually huge. So Lycos is trying to actively prevent a disaster. Julio is trying to build around the square, and he succeeds. Now, oh lordy, 8 points are going to go to somebody. Well, to Julio probably. You gotta do it, right? I know you're helping your opponent, but 8 points is too much, and there's still gonna be 2 tiles that fit into that square, so at least the Colombian is getting something out of it. Lycos is just committing hard on the farms. Man, this is going to be entertaining. This is going to be so entertaining. How many farmers are we going to see in this game? We already have 4. Are we going to have 12? Are we going to have 14? Do let me know in the chat. How many farmers? That's going to be your bet. Although I don't have a prize to offer today, other than eternal glory, but do let me know. How many farmers do you think they're gonna still drop? Hi, Horim. In the meantime, while the players are trying to sort it out between themselves, and Lycos is getting quite the advantage on not only the early farm control, but also on this lovely, lovely monastery, Julio is trying to strike back by trying and block Lycos' meeple, and he's probably going to do it now, actually. I know it looks like a very painful sequence, you know, to spend 2 lovely monasteries on blocking, but once you started this, you have to continue, and in this case, it's absolutely correct. Not sure about this first move, maybe I would have delayed this blocking sequence, but the second move, yeah, it's very good to try and deny Lycos the meeple. The problem, though, with this sequence is that it gives back a lot of green squares to red, but it does not appear to be a problem. From red's point of view, no, from green's point of view, because green chose not to play an imbalance. Green wants to equalize this field and then maybe even drop 1 more farmer a little bit later. So that's green's plan. Let's see how it works out for him. Red trying to block hard Julio's meeple here. Julio instantly defends, but that's big mistake. I think that might even be a misclick. So the easiest defense here, the easiest defense is just go over here like this, so that later you can have yourself either 2 vanilla city caps or 2 Doritos or something like this. And this defense just leaves way too many blocking options for red here, and red instantly took advantage of one. So that's the first major tactical mistake of the game. Julio is the one to deliver. He's trying to do something about it. You know, now this city is going to be a ruin at the very least. But 15 points down on the scoreboard, and with a farm, the potential of which keeps only improving, you really don't want to be throwing any additional meeples into the abyss. Julio's fighting back with roads. This is a really long one. It's going to even outscore this monastery, and not much investment was required, really. A lot of this road was built up by Lycos himself. In the meantime, Lycos is being a bit stingy with his meeples, choosing not to attack Green's road just yet. I wonder what Green does here. He goes for a farm? Oh no, that's red. Oh, that was red, right. Napalm is saying I'm going for 7 farmers. So 6 farmers already. So if there is one more, then you win. But yeah, from Julio's position, it's kind of difficult to do anything really, because either you need to drop 3 more farmers, or at least 2 more farmers to try and win this farm, or you need to just commit atrocities on the scoreboard. But how are you going to do that when the main scoring tiles, namely the 6 monasteries, have already gone out? And 3 of them have been put to good use by Lycos. Now this I like. It's a very volatile move. Leaving a 6-point city open, starting an X-point city. I guess it's something that is not going to be a big problem for the Guatemalan player anyway. But Julio now has an excellent chance. He just needs to see this opportunity and to nobly take the risk. The move that needs to be played is this one exactly. He's going for a 14-point road. Will he succeed? No, he won't. But this does not mean that it was not worth doing. First of all, this move already accomplished something. Lycos was forced to use this tile as a defense instead of scoring points for the city. And, you know, with a favorable run out, 14 points and a meeple back, then Julio would have had a genuine chance in this game. 8 points and a meeple back is something, but a 6-pointer is immediately going to make the difference here. Unless the Guatemalan has any other intentions. Also note how gigantic the field is becoming. Joe F is saying this is really interesting, not putting the cup tile to the right. Which one are you calling the cup tile? Because I'm very keen on hearing this different nomenclature of tiles from around the world. Oh god, oh wait, so yesterday Idreer, my special guest from today, he taught me something really nice. Oh, check this out. So the cow and the horse tile, instead he calls them accordion and electric accordion. Or really not accordion, but bayan, if you know this Slavic instrument. But like, this is like an accordion and this is like an electric accordion because it has a cord going out of it. Hi Hernan, thank you for confirming that Exter and Doghunt are in fact playing, so they must have been some sort of technical issue with the creation of the tournaments. And you know what, whilst Lycos is thinking what to do with the splitter, I am so desperate for some water, so I'm just gonna take a break right now, because I need to preserve my voice for later. Alrighty. Well, I guess not much has happened other than Lycos' advantage is becoming even more obscene. And somehow Julio did not yet finish his long road. And that's still possible, though. Wait a second. What if? What if Julio gets a dagger tile here? That's 10 points for the city, and also a boatload for this road. Is there any world where the Colombian actually wins this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I see this, I see this. So maybe we go here and drop a farmer, and then we hope that Lycos does not draw a Dorito. And then we invade, and then we go here, and then we invade, and then we equalize this field, and we get this tile and score a boatload. And he goes for it! That is an awesome, awesome find by Julio. Even if it doesn't work, like, I just gotta give you mad respect for trying to actually fight. Lycos is trying to do something about them field invasions. Julio's still scoring points. He soon needs to be dropping more farmers. Lycos, with 3 points for the road, getting further on the scoreboard. Julio with a double city cap. Now it's time to drop yet another farmer somewhere. I know. No, I don't. Oh, that's sad. So you see, there are 5 vanilla Doritos gone out. Okay, vanilla Doritos. There should be a vanilla flavor of Doritos. That would taste disgusting, but so do regular Doritos, if you ask me. So what's the difference? Okay, there we go. Julio's invading. Julio's fighting hard. Now all he needs to do is to draw one of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ah, it doesn't work. Ah, there is nothing that goes here. That's so sad. The sadness. That was such a lovely idea. I hope that I miscounted tiles. Yeah, there are no curves for sure, and Lycos is gonna finish the city anyway. This is not to say this wasn't a noble attempt. A straight line for Julio needs to be used somewhere. Oh, actually, yeah, it needs to be used here, obviously, for a 6-point farm and a chance of an invasion. So even though it's not going to work, it's interesting to see how many comeback routes are built into this game, because there was a genuine chance for green winning the game, like up until a couple of tiles ago. Oh, there we go. It's like super, super desperation, but it doesn't quite work. I don't think Julio's fully counting tiles. Lycos is getting himself the power tile. But he chooses not to take 10 points for the city, simply not wanting to get Julio Meeple back. And the last tile goes for 5 points for Lycos. Julio gets yet another crossroads. And you know what? At the very least, Julio could have equalized the field. Yeah, instead of this move, I think that was the main mistake. Had he gone over here, he would have actually successfully connected over here and equalized. But now it's so unfortunate that he invested so much into the farm and lost the farm anyway. So let's see what the final score is. 46 is the difference, and despite that, there was still a chance. Anyway, exciting game. Like, honestly, my favorite two types of games is like either watching the 800 level or like the 400 level. Because, you know, here there are just these big swings and the moves are not easy to predict, and, you know, players like play with heart and soul. Loving this. Anyway, congratulations for Lycos for keeping their chances alive. Oh wait, I need to take care of the scoreboard. Ah, yeah. It's been a bit off, right? So let me just do this and this. Yeah. Close enough. Wait, let me just do a bit of that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that should be neat enough. No, like this. Okay, perfect. No. I just want to be a bit more pedantic. So let's just refresh it. See if there have been any other decisive results. No, not really. So Chini GT is still playing against Salva. Chini managed to equalize. Are we going to actually have an upset here? Are we going to actually have a Guatemala win? We're going to find out soon enough. Oh, look, low scoring game must have been very blocky, with 66 points being enough for the victory. Now Salva 3 playing against Chini, and Chini's ahead on the scoreboard with his blue patriotic meeples. Salva with red. Chini using their meeples to invade a farm. I'm not sure how big that farm is. It looks pretty big. Pretty big. Both players have a lot of time left, and kind of difficult to assess this position from the get-go. All I know is that Salva got the Vanilla City cap that Chini was hoping for, and there's no monastery that fits into this square. But there's one more Vanilla City cap that goes there. So this seems like a rather strong move. In fact, that's a move that's going to give that gave Blue an 83% chance of success, which is a lot of percent. And I'm recounting the tiles again, and there's still one more vanilla even after this that goes here, and this would be a complete takeover of the field by Guatemala. Now, of course, Red is planning his own field invasion, but will that be even enough for Red to win? Well, maybe if Red's going to just take 6 points here for the city, it looks like something rather annoying. And I have doubts as to what other things Red can do. Yes, Nepa, my 10 farmers in the end in the last game. Way outbidding your initial proposition of 7. So Salva is going to use all of their 6 minutes. Let's try and also think with them. I'm streaming without the plugin today that counts points for you. Also, do let me know if you prefer streams with or without the plugin, if you remember that I used a couple of weeks ago. Now, what can be done here? So there's complete equality on all fields, really. And Chini has 3 points extra. So +3. 2 points extra for the road, that's +2. And then what else? This is a 7-point monastery versus 8-point monastery, so that's 1 for Salva. And then Salva has 3.6 for the city, and Blue has 5 for the city, so that's also 1 for Salva. So at the moment, Chini's ahead 3 points overall if all these farmers connect. Well, actually, the game is completely equal because this here farmer is scoring 3, whereas this farmer is scoring 0. So Chini got 6 points. No, Salva got 6 points. Chini gets a straight line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And she now really... Okay, that was very quick. And Salva gets the Vanilla City cap. This has to be really painful to bet on 2 city caps and to have your opponent draw both city caps. It's a 1 in 6 chance. And indeed, I feel very sorry for Chini because obviously Colombia is the favorite in this game, and it looked like this is a key duel for the fate of the match. Salvo, of course, is not going to do charity. Well, going over here would be a nice way to lose the game. If Colombians are feeling generous, which I doubt they're not. In Carcassonne, that is. Yeah, still red trying to be precise here. Not really sure if that matters much. I mean, I guess I just go here for some 3 points. It might be more precise to go here for 2 points, actually. No, it's not. Yeah, you could just take 3. So he goes for 2 points. Oh, but you know what? Chini made a mistake here. So this is fine. You see, what needed to happen? If Chini were to draw this tile here, then Salva would have drawn this tile here, and Salva would have connected anyway. So what needed to be done with this straight line? Chini needed to go over here and finish Salva's monastery just to block that square, and then Chini needed to hope for this. Yeah, overall it's going to end up being a very close game. Very, very close game. Just a series of unfortunate draws towards the end will lose this game for Chini with 7 points. But even then, so just again to reiterate that final thing, if Chini were to count the tiles precisely, then they would have known that this invasion was possible. So going over here at the expense of giving your opponent a meeple back was the way to go, and then hoping for the city cap for invasion, which, you know, wasn't even meant to be anyway. That was something that would have given them the best chance. Anyway, so it says 1 Colombia, 1 Guatemala. And the chances of the Central Americans are still there. In the meantime, Taiwan is ahead against Belgium as expected, and Sergio Antolines has defeated King Oscar. And Extor is already ahead against Dogcott. So in order for Guatemala to win this, they would need to get themselves a lot of victories right now. And let's see if Dogcod is somebody whom can manage to accomplish this. So the second game between Exter and Dogcod has started. And it looks like Exter is already quite massively ahead. And also very, very strongly outrating the Guatemalan. Actually, no, never mind this. Let's go back to the chat. Okay. So what are they saying? Wait, so apparently there was a cow tile. Oh yeah, so apparently there was a cow tile critical early in this situation, because Salva could have finished this city over here, but this is something that we didn't see. And Chini saying the same, that for the connection she would need the vanilla. Yeah. And then they're just explaining pleasantries. Well, yeah, you see, you think like Salva is traying. Okay, so if you, so he basically he's saying the same thing. Like if Blue were to get the city cap, then the road would have belonged to Salva, and so there would have been equality on the field. But both players have overlooked the opportunity for Chini to go over here and block that field invasion. Maybe something for the team captains to look over in post-game analysis. Anyway, back to this. Dogcod is crawling their way back on the scoreboard. But Exter is looking really, really good here with 4 points. A bit of a dubious 1 point meeple here. So based on the rating, it appears to be that Dogcod is a bit of a newer player. And the main tip that I have for newer players is to just be a bit more stingy with their meeples for now. Of course, I advocate greed, but this is mostly at higher levels, because when you invest your meeples into 1 point road, you have to have a really, really good reason as to why. And I mean, eventually Dogcod's going to be fine. Like, he's going to get his meeple back. But you see, now, for example, you actually don't want to be using this meeple here. You want to be using this probably here to scoring points, or to do something like this, or even to do something like this. So there are other uses for potential crossroad tile that Dogcod has. Well, now surely this is going to be the move by Dogcod. Actually, this is going to be justifying that 1 point meeple. Yep, exactly. Although, oh, this has to be either a misclick or rather a rather large mistake. So another thing that I also say for newer players, man, I should really just get a video out of this finally. So another thing that I say for newer players is to avoid self-restriction. Because when you can point the city cap up and just build unobstructed, it's much better than building here and being subject to an attack or block. You know, this, what happened right now, is actually pretty much the best case scenario for green. Much worse would have been something like an extender or a cow tile. Well, there's no cow tile, but there's still an extender going over here and tying this meeple to this here blocked square. Yeah, so Dogcod could have really suffered here. But for now, they're hanging in there. They're having a 10-point ruin. They still have a chance to finish their city. The city of Extur is still vulnerable over here. However, the monastery for 8 points looks pretty safe. And even if it gets blocked, which is unlikely to begin with, the scoreboard difference should probably seal the deal for Extur and Team Colombia. So we will be looking at this game with one eye. But in the meantime, I'm wondering what is happening with illusions. Does anybody have any insider intel? Okay, finally they're playing. And Trojas Finao won the first game. So will Illusions manage to come back? Well, she has the meeples to do so, but not the points on the scoreboard. Although, honestly, here, Red has a pretty decent position. Let me just put these two games nearby. Oh, extra placed his last meeple. Anyway, we're gonna come back to that a little bit later. So, Trojas Henao is thinking of probably going over here. I wonder why is this such a controversial decision that requires so much time, and I think maybe the idea is to go here first. But there's no rush with that. Maybe he wants to take 3 points here. Maybe he wants to go here and put pressure on Illusion City. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. So these 3 points make sense. But if you go over here, these are the same 3 points except you get meeples back. So this has to be a rather big mistake by Trojas and something that our Guatemalan fans would like to see. I guess there are still 2 tiles that fit here, but even if you're going to get these tiles for which there's 25% chance that is not going to happen, it's statistically going to be quite a wait. And especially after this move, which makes it harder for Trojas to get a meeple back, it looks like that temporary meeple advantage could do wonders for the Guatemalan. Although now I think she's been a bit too premature with the field connection. I would have probably preferred to just finish the city and then connect to the field with a Dorito. Her logic was that she doesn't want to get blocked. It was possible for Trojas to go here and then try to inflict some damage. Also, another thing that this move does, it actually frees up this platform to try and start attack Trojas' city on the right, because the idea is, now Illusion's probably going to go here, which would be my move of choice. But this move was not possible prior because of this risk to get blocked. This move also makes sense, kind of trying to attack that city from the other side, also putting additional pressure on this square. The difference, though, about it is that it's a double-edged move because somebody could go over here and score a lot of points by invading the city with a second meeple. In the meantime, Trojas is meepleless. They're forced to discard a monastery. And who's to blame? Who's to blame for being meepleless? For being too stingy with this here tile? Illusions is trying to attack these 2 cities. And honestly, it's not a crazy idea to drop a farmer there even. I think it's a bit much. But the idea of this farmer is that there are 2 possible outcomes. Either you connect over here, or this field connection gets blocked. Actually, wait a second. If this field connection gets blocked with a straight line, then there's another straight line to go over here and connect like this. So this field connection is extremely hard to block. The only realistic way of doing so, of getting something like a Rodorito tile that goes over here, that really cuts this meeple off. But there are 2 issues with it. First of all, a Rodorito is needed over here for Trojas to save his own meeple. And the second is, even if this square is permanently blocked, then this field is worth doing for Red in his own right. In its own right, right? Because they are farmers that are waiting to happen here. No, what am I saying? These cities are going to be completed. This is what I'm trying to say, right? And when these cities are completed, they're going to score a lot of points. And when this city is going to complete, it's going to score a lot of points. So there's going to be a 9-point field. It's going to be an even greater field. Oh, this is a great tile for Trojas, though. I mean, he's not going to get a meeple back, but he's scoring a boatload of points with this. So Illusions must be frustrated as a result of this last draw, and she has options. Either she can peacefully do this, which makes sense, or she could have even gone over here and tried to fight for the even larger city. So 17 points down on the scoreboard. Trojas is trying to prevent some worst case scenarios. He does not want for Illusions to invade over here, and she chooses to just get it over with, connect all the cities, and drop a farmer. Yeah, that also makes sense. Sometimes, if you think that your opponent is going to drop a farmer, it can make sense to drop a farmer yourself. But what is that? I'm trying to figure out what that move does. Okay, it kind of prevents this farmer from invading the field. But honestly, Red should be happy with this move, because I think it was a bit premature from Green. You see, the point of this farmer is not so much to invade the field, it's kind of just take out a valuable farming platform and score the 6 points, because the ideal outcome for Illusion is that she gets a curve, invades over here, enjoys a large field, and then this farmer just sort of stays there. Maybe this square just gets blocked. Whoa! Interesting move from Trojas, and it's not going to work. So now, Illusions needs to not panic and find her best move. I'm not going to say what it is. I'm pretty sure you figured out this in the chat. So the idea, yeah, there we go, she does it. It was tempting to go over here and simply finish her city. It was also possible to panic and go over here and try to finish her opponent's city just to get that farmer. But no. This move has to be utterly devastating for Green, and it's a complete game changer, because not only does it get this farmer into the field, but it also cuts off this Green farmer completely. And now Troch is going to need to work really hard to make this farmer worthwhile. In the meantime, Red is coming closer on the scoreboard by drawing the last starting tile, but Trojas finishes a 4-point city and a 3-point road and gets a meeple back as well. There's also still one more crossroads remaining to fit into the square, which could be used by either party to go over here and penetrate the main field. So Illusions needs that last crossroads in order to win this. Maybe she can go over here for a 5-point road and then finish this road for 6 points. Let's see if she does this. Maybe going over here for 3 points and then... Whoa! Yeah, it appears to be just a bit too... I'm not sure how to call it. A bit too desperate move, maybe? Because the position of Red is actually not that bad. Like, Red is ahead on the farm. Yeah, in fact, Red is just ahead in general. I also realized something. I kind of forgot that there was this farmer all along, so the obvious purpose of this move was simply expanding this farm for 6 points. Now the next purpose is going to go here and score 4 points for the road, so that certainly makes sense. Yeah, still, Red is doing well in this position because of this farmer of Green that is cut off. So it looks like the outcome of the game will be heavily dependent on not only whether this tile is drawn by Green, but also on the timing of said draw. So if this tile is drawn too soon, then this is actually very good for Illusions, because Green will not be able to drop a farmer here and go for a 50-50. Now a slight mistake here from Illusions, kind of blocking up too many green squares on her field. Trojas chooses to invade the field anyway, which honestly is something that Red should be happy about. Red, with 2 meeples extra, 22 points behind on the scoreboard, but 21 points on the main field under her ironclad control. Trojas gets the crossroads, finally gets a meeple back, and exposes a platform over here for a potential invasion, so he wishes he would have placed this tile over here. Illusions with a straight line. Does she go over here or over here to score some points? Or does she go over here to drop a farmer for insurance? Or maybe she just goes over here to just take out that farming platform without spending a meeple. Or maybe she just goes here for scoring, trying to get 5 points road and a meeple back. It's a complicated position, but she's a bit short on time, less than 6 minutes, which is not as much time as you think. In the meantime, the game between Doggcod and Extor has finished. Extor has won his second game, and with that, Colombia will prevail in this match. But it looks like with only a 15-point difference, Doggcod did give it a bit of a fight. So let's have a look at this. Yeah, eventually, as we can see, Extor did finish his 9-point monastery. The ruin of Doggcod grew a little bit, but that long-term meeple advantage was not too difficult for Extor to convert. Now back to this. Illusions decide to go for the insurance. So this field is completely under her control, and Trojas is now trying to build a rather large city here, and that's pretty smart because there's still plenty of Doritos remaining. In fact, if Red is not careful, Green could even complete the city and run away with this game. So what do we do here as Red? Yeah, this move makes sense. With the road. Okay, there we go. Green continues the city. Red draws one of the Doritos. Now needs to choose whether to just go here and block this guy, which appears to not be necessary because there is nothing that fits into that square anyway. So she just makes a bit of a waiting move. Maybe a consideration was just going over here and meepling that ruined monastery for Trojas. No good monastery spots. In theory, could go here and try to invade the farm, but there are no additional monasteries to complete the invasion. There appears to be, however, a divider. Just thinking that, you know, illusions, not illusions, but Trojas was thinking so long with that. Oh man, we missed like the most exciting parts. Okay, of course it happened. But basically, I didn't even notice that there was a disruption. I was just thinking that Trojas was thinking for such a long time, but that wasn't the case. Okay, so this is actually fascinating. So, there was a city fight towards the end of the game. Illusions did manage to score a lot for this farm, and she was forced to go over here and get a super majority on the field. And she won this game by 1 point. Honestly, just like, I didn't quite see the end game, but it was absolutely amazingly played by the Guatemala, and some really high-level moves like this one, this farmer over here, very counterintuitive. The insurance and this farmer over here as well. So many things. And they're now going to be playing the decider if Trojas wants to win that one. Then they certainly have some work to do. Let's also see how the others are doing. In the meantime, Taiwan's Belgium, the score has been unchanged. Here, well, scoreboard like this scoreboard wise, this looks good for Illusions, but other than that, a pretty rough game. The reasons are as follows. First of all, her road, which seems to have a lot of potential, is basically blocked. There's only one tile that fits into this square. This is still not that bad because the road is fairly long and is going to yield 9 points at the end of the game. But the main problem for Red is that the Colombian player has built up and secured himself a pretty large city. There's still one extender and all 3 splitters that fit into that square, which would give at the very least 18 points. And also, of course, some extra moral boost for this. So Illusions would need to work really hard to do something meaningful in this game. Maybe going over here earlier and trying to draw that dagger and get more meeples. Maybe scoring some quick points. Maybe being the first on the monastery. And that's interesting also to check how's her monastery play. So many players, well, we've seen earlier some quite spectacular monastery play. Honestly, the Godfried van Bouillon versus Kithara is something that I don't think I'll ever forget. Those of you who watch the stream from the start will know. So a monastery for Illusions, she still seems to be thinking about it. What are we having? Squires. Oh, this is actually the last game in the match. Everything else has already finished. Lycos so far the only one to score points for his team. So let's see if Illusions manages to join them or not. Illusions managing to sort of kind of save her road with this dagger, and then there's also this crossroads which she can draw a little bit later. Also a bit helpful that she got one of these dividers. The extender, he's the massive favorite to finish the city. He's not a favorite to finish the city at the bottom, though. There's only one tile that's left into the square. And even after this tile is drawn, not at all that likely for it to make any difference. Now, Illusions has only one meeple. Let's see how she makes use of it. And she chooses to simply get her 2 points. She does not want to invest her last meeple somewhere precarious just yet. In the meantime, she gets blocked pretty hard on this city here. However, there's still one tile surprisingly that fits here. So this city live, somehow still live if she gets a dagger, and then this here thing, Trojas. Gets a monastery, and I guess there's not enough tile to score many points. I presume a 3-pointer is what we're going to have. One of the splitter tiles have been drawn by Illusions to score 4 points over here. A curve from the Guatemalan. Maybe looking forward to going here somehow, trying to circumvent this dangerous square and join the green farmer. And this is exactly what the city scores 16 and 4 extra and extra farm points, and plus 40 is the difference so far. Of course, Illusion is trying to fight back a little bit, but the scoreboard appears to be a bit too much. Chiro takes 6 points from Monastery. the Guatemalan has a chance to finish her city at the top. I know she doesn't. There's simply not enough city caps to do that. Probably the best thing she can do is simply grab 4 points. Maybe earlier, when making that move, a farmer here would have made things slightly better, just because there's so many city caps remaining, or at least there were so many city caps remaining, that and then getting those meeples back. So maybe slight imprecisions from the Guatemalan. Not that it would have helped her much, really. So what else can she do? Maybe going for a farmer on the right. That would be my expectation. Still plenty of time to make that decision. So 4 points appears to be the move. No, a farmer. That's actually pretty interesting. Okay, okay. I guess that works at 6 points and a chance to get some. Use his city. Illusions get a quadruple city tile, which is probably the last tile that she wanted to draw. She discards it, and I wonder if she's going to even go for this 4-point city. Probably not the worst idea in the world. She doesn't do it. She gets the last crossroads, which Illusions needed for her road. 4 extra points to rub it in. Red gets a splitter tile, turning a 6-point field into a 9-point field. Curvy tile for Tirojas. We might see some sort of field invasion, or we just might see a peaceful 6-point farmer on the right. Or a 4-point road over here. Plenty of options. He chooses war. Goes for the invasion. Illusions get herself the other crossroads just a little bit too late. If she does go over here, she's not going to really score all that much. She's going to get meeples back, but she won't be able to use those meeples. So probably 6 points over here would indeed be the move. And until that city got back was the reason why he won. So final score, Tirojas 106, Illusion 73. Not quite enough for a comeback for the Guatemalan. Still absolutely respectable effort, especially in that second game with the 1-point win. Colombia is going to take this down 4-1, so we have a day of decisive results. First of all, Finland swept Australia 5-0, then Japan asserted dominance against Netherlands with 5-0, and only Guatemala managed at least to take 1 game point. Colombia, Lycos was the only one to win his duel. 4-1 is the final score. That's it for today's streaming. Tomorrow I'm planning to show Finland versus Catalonia, so stay tuned for the updates. Now I really need to take some rests and to recover before I have to play my own match. Croatia versus Latvia. You can see the stream of that on Nalaheim's channel. And yeah, then we're gonna be wrapping up. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.